How's it going, Knicks fans? Welcome back to another episode of Fireside Knicks. I'm your host, Dylan Backer. I'm joined by my brother and co-host, Justin Backer. And today we're going to be talking about something that doesn't really come as a surprise, but we're just glad it got done. It's the Josh Hart extension. He formally agreed to a 4-year, $81 million extension yesterday. The deal can go up to 5 years, 94 million. Today he officially signed it, so now he's officially a member of the New York Knicks for the long term. Very impactful player. We saw his impact right away as soon as he came over last year at the trade deadline. So just very excited to see him back for the long term. Very excited to see that they were able to get it done. Wasted absolutely no time. They got it done as soon as he was eligible for the extension. So seems like both sides really wanted to get it done, and I'm just happy that they were able to get it done so swiftly. So with that being said, I'm going to pass the mic off to my brother Justin and let him let his thoughts out on what he thinks about the Josh Hart extension. I'm sure he's got a lot to say about it, so go for it, my man.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. It was a matter of when Josh Hart was going to get extended rather than if. Josh Hart really seemed to really enjoy his time with the Knicks, and the Knicks seemed to embrace Hart as well as the city. So it was a matter of when rather than if. I'm glad that he's back for the long term. He has very good chemistry with Jalen Brunson. So it's very important that your cornerstone player is playing around guys that he likes. You know what I mean? So I think that's huge. And Josh Hart's impact was felt right away the second he got traded over to the Knicks. They went 17-8 with him, which I believe was the third best record in the NBA or something like that along that span. They had the best offensive rating with Josh Hart. They had the second best net rating. The impact was felt right away. I mean, they rattled off 9 straight wins the second he showed up. It was kind of like a joke, like, oh, they haven't lost with Josh Hart, but like, no, that was the truth. They really hadn't lost with Josh Hart for 9 straight games or something like that, So the impact was felt right away, and it carried over into the playoffs. He had a great series against Cleveland. He had a big shot in Game 1, one of the bigger shots really in recent Knicks history. And I'm very happy he's back. It's very important that he's back, in my opinion, because he was such a big part of the reason they were so good last season. I mean, they were like 2 or 3 games over 500 when they traded for him. They finished the season with one of the top 10 records in the NBA, 5th seed. So, I think bringing Hart in really raised the expectations for the Knicks. They went from a team battling for like a play-in spot, 7th, 8th, 9th seed, somewhere around there, to hold on a second. This team might be like a serious second-round team. They can make a run at the Eastern Conference Finals, So, very excited to have Hart back for the future. I think more great basketball is ahead. So, yeah, I'm going to pass my mic over to you, though.
Yeah, no, I think you hit on a lot of good points, especially, the fact that he likes playing with Jalen Brunson. They won the championships in Villanova. They're playing on Team USA this year. They get along really well. They're really good friends. So, it's very good that you're bringing back a guy who really gets along with the team's star player. I think that's phenomenal right there. And I think Josh Hart just impacts winning in a way that most fans might not realize, because he's not the type of guy that lights up a stat sheet. He's not the type of guy that's going to average 25 points and double-digit rebounds and all this stuff. But he's the type of guy that impacts winning in so many ways. He's a great defensive player. He plays hard. He plays physical. He's willing to get into the paint. He's not afraid to go up with a bunch of 7-footers to fight for rebounds. He gets a lot of rebounds as well. He's very good in transition as a finisher, and he's a very good shooter. He doesn't have high volume as a shooter, but when he does shoot it, he makes it more often than not. He shot like 51% from 3 in the 25 regular season games of the Knicks, an absolutely like astonishing percentage. And I also want to hit on this too. Some Knicks fans were a little upset about the contract that he was given yesterday. Some said that he was making too much money, that he was getting overpaid. Maybe $20 million a year is a bit for a bench player, yes, but at the same time, Dillon Brooks is making $86 million, guys. You cannot convince me Josh Hart is making too much money when that contract exists right now. And also, there are a couple other players I want to mention too that are making around the same amount of money or even more money than Josh Hart will be making. Jordan Clarkson's going to make $23 million next year. Bruce Brown, very impactful player. Don't get me wrong. Bruce Brown is very impactful, but he's going to be making $22 million a year coming off the bench for Indiana most likely. Joe Harris makes $19 million a year to shoot the 3, and that's it. I mean, those are just some guys right there that are going to be making around the same amount of money or even more than Josh Hart. And Josh Hart, I think, is very impactful, possibly even more impactful than some of those guys. Maybe not Bruce Brown, maybe even Bruce Brown, maybe not. That's a topsy-turvy one. That's a little more, kind of interchangeable. But I would say Josh Hart is more impactful than Jordan Clarkson and Joe Harris, without a doubt. And overall, I mean, I just think it's really good that they brought him back. I think, if you want to build a good championship core, you got to bring the guys that are most impactful. And bringing back Josh Hart was a very impactful player. Josh Hart did like everything. It was an instantaneous impact. It wasn't like that. It took a few games to kind of get chemistry going, or that they started off slow and then they really started to get going. No, it was right away that he came over that you saw his impact. And we got this man for Cam Reddish, a guy who did not impact winning basketball at all whatsoever, and a guy who, struggled to find a consistent role in Portland. Yes, I know Cam Reddish is now with the Lakers now, and I'm not going to root against the guy. Of course, I do want to see Cam Reddish succeed. I'm not that type of person. I do hope he can, find a good rhythm in LA, but it was never going to work in New York with Cam Reddish. I know he had a bit of a cult following before Josh Hart came over, and some Knicks fans were saying that he needs to be playing more because they think he's really good, this, that. Haven't heard a peep of him since Josh Hart came over and they saw his true impact. Because let's be honest here, Josh Hart is just a much better player than Cam Reddish, and it was the right move that the Knicks had to make at the time of the deadline. And I'm glad they were able to get that done, and I'm glad they were able to, get this extension done and keep Hart around for the long term because he truly impacts winning. He truly does a lot of things that most other bench players don't do. Most other bench players don't necessarily provide you the type of production that Josh Hart can provide. And Josh Hart, yes, I know he's capable of being a starter on any given team, really, but his role on the bench is perfect because he can mesh well with the starters. He can be in closing lineups, but he also just makes the second unit much deeper. Right now, the second unit next season looks like it's going to be Emmanuel Quickly, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and Isaiah Hartenstein. That is a very strong second unit. That'll be one of the stronger second units in the entire NBA, I think. And I'm just really glad they brought him over. I'm gonna pass the mic over to you though. I know I just spoke a lot. I had to get some of those things off my chest though because some Knicks fans confused me a little bit when they were upset about this contract. So that being said,
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, especially the Cam Reddish thing. Me personally, I forgot all about Cam Reddish. I mean, I was never really a big Cam Reddish guy to begin with. I never saw it with Cam Reddish. I know some people think he's going to be really good. I never saw it with him. So it just never was going to work. I'm glad they were able to flip that into Josh Hart. You know what I mean? I think that's very impactful. That's a really good trade in my opinion. So you got a guy who wasn't really playing, who's kind of holding back a little bit, and you turn him into Josh Hart, one of the more impactful bench players really in the entire NBA. So I think that's a great deal. And with the making too much money thing, I mean, yeah, he's getting overpaid a little bit, but it's a worthy investment. The guy doesn't take plays off. He lives up to his name. He's Josh Hart. He plays with a lot of heart. So, you know what I mean? I know that's kind of corny, but he lives up to his name. He plays on both sides of the ball, 115% effort. He's never going to take plays off. So I think you're getting a really worthy investment with that. We just saw Bruce Brown, like you said, get 20-something million from the Pacers because of how impactful he was with the Denver Nuggets on their route to a championship. So, guys like that will get paid now, so I'm happy to see that Hart got extended for this. I don't think it's too much money. It's a little much, but I don't think it's too much. Now, I will say, unfortunately, this is not going to be very good, but this is going to impact Quickly a little bit because Quickly is due for an extension. And, the fact that they signed Hart to this extension probably means that, Quickly's time as a Knick may be running out. So, some people aren't going to like that, but it's just, that's just how it's going to roll. They chose to extend Josh Hart before they even decided to extend Quickly. So, I mean, that should tell you the direction that they plan on going. They signed DiVincenzo in the offseason. So, I alluded to on a different episode of Fireside Knicks that, signing DiVincenzo might be kind of insurance in case Quickly were to explore elsewhere and leave the Knicks. So, I'm happy that Hart's back. And also alluding to the Team USA thing, like you mentioned with him and Brunson, I think that is an underrated aspect of building chemistry. I don't know if you watched the Paul George podcast episode that recently came out with Klay Thompson, but Klay Thompson said that him and Steph Curry weren't really buddy until they played for Team USA and went through that, and experienced that together. And that's one of the Splash Bros. You tell me the Splash Bros didn't talk to each other for years until they went to Team USA. You know what I mean? Obviously, Hart and Brunson, that's not the case with them. You know what I mean? They're not one of the greatest duos in NBA history, but they also are buddy already. But still, I think together in a different country, playing for your country. So, all in all, I'm excited that Hart's back, and I'm excited to see what comes in the future with this. I'm excited for the basketball in the future. I think the Knicks are in a great place, and yeah, I'm very excited. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you hit on some very good points, like especially the Team USA thing. Very underrated aspect, like you said. Good way to build chemistry when you represent your country and you're playing some good basketball in the summer. I think that's always a good way to kind of get to know some of these guys more because you're getting to play with, especially for other players too. They're playing with guys that they hadn't really gotten to play with before in the past. So, it's a good opportunity to build chemistry, get to know these guys a bit more. I always love that. So I think it's a good aspect. And also the quickly thing, yes, that's kind of sucky, but at the same time, it is kind of true. Quickly's due for an extension. He's also reportedly seeking a deal close to $100 million. And with all due respect, I love Emmanuel Quickly, but if I'm the New York Knicks, I am not paying a six man $100 million because Emmanuel Quickly is not going to be able to really find a starting gig on this team, especially with he could possibly get as a starter is as a shooting guard, but I just don't see that ever happening, especially with Josh Hart around and Quentin Grimes continuing to develop. That's not really going to happen. So unfortunately, Quickly's kind of handcuffed to that bench role as a six man with the New York Knicks. And Quickly probably loves that role. He probably loves being with the New York Knicks, but he also knows his worth. I'm sure he knows that other teams are going to want him to be a starter and to have a bigger role, and are also going to be willing to give him more money. And this at the end of the day, the NBA is a business, and players are going to want their money that they feel like they deserve. So if Quickly decides to seek elsewhere, yes, that would kind of suck if he ends up leaving the New York Knicks because I do love Emmanuel Quickly, but at the same time, it won't be the end of the world. You brought back Josh Hart, who, like I've been saying all podcasts, is a highly impactful player to winning, and that's what's most important if you want to build a good core. Signed Dante DiVincenzo already, so you kind of have that insurance. If Quickly were to walk, you have a very, very talented backup guard already in that department. And you could probably find some other guys to fill in the void left off by Quickly, but you still would have a very strong bench unit with DiVincenzo and Hart. And if DiVincenzo were to eventually become a starter, and say Quentin Grimes were to go to the bench, you'd have still a very strong second unit there with a more developed Quentin Grimes, and of course Josh Hart, who just impacts winning, and like I said, in so many different ways that you had to bring the guy back. You had to, and you were able to do it for a pretty team friendly bargain. Yes, like I said, like we've been saying, maybe he's making a little bit more money than we would have liked, but at the same time, with how impactful he was to winning and how much the market is these days, a different team might have handed Josh Hart more money. A different team might have locked him up for more money, and then we would have lost out on a highly impactful player with that being with that. You know what I mean? Like there might have been a team out there that would have been willing to shell out, a couple extra $1 million to keep Josh Hart around because he is that impactful. The New York Knicks, on the other hand, they're paying him a little bit over $20 million a year. I think it's worth it though. Like you said, it's a worthy investment. I think that's a good price range for him. I think he's worth that. Like, yes, he doesn't like light up the stat sheet. He's not like an all-star. He's not like all that stuff, but he's just a highly impactful player. He's really, really good at what he does. So just really happy that they brought him back. Yes, it may affect Quickly, but that's a different discussion for a different time. But with all that being said, we'd love to hear what you guys got to say about this in the comments. Do you think this was a good contract? Do you think the Knicks made the right decision to extend Josh Hart to this specific deal? Do you think they paid him too much money? Do you think he could have made more money? Do you think he got underpaid? Well, who knows what you guys may think? We would love to hear it. You can follow us on Twitter. Well, it's called X now, so you can follow us on X. I gotta call it that now. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course this YouTube page. You can also follow our personal Twitter or X accounts. They're above our heads. And the audio version of this podcast will be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So make sure you guys give us a 5-star rating on those. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on this YouTube page. And with that being said, we'll see you guys in the next episode of Fireside Knicks. Peace out.